Welcome in. The MLS season is winding down as most teams only have about 5 or 6 games left. 5 teams have clinched playoff berths now, with Cincinnati, Orlando, and Columbus, and Philadelphia doing so in the East. And over in the West, St. Louis did so after drawing with LAFC on Wednesday. Now that 0-0 draw against LAFC was rare. It was the first time St. Louis ended in a 0-0 draw this season, and it cost us one of our bets. The Sporting Kansas City offense drying up and failing to score also did, but we did hit one bet with Columbus and Miami cashing in a parlay. Now let's move on to this weekend. On Wednesday, New England were the only team that were off. This weekend, that team will be Seattle. And if you haven't already, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel so you can see more MLS picks and picks from other leagues all year long, as well as drop your comments for any bets that you like into the comments. It really helps the YouTube algorithm with these videos. But let's get started and cover 8 of this weekend's 14 games. And I'll start off with a 3-game parlay, starting with Atlanta and Montreal. Atlanta were on the road Wednesday, and they came away with a 1-1 draw in DC. Montreal were at home Wednesday, but they held the Sporting Supporters Shield leaders Cincinnati to a 1-1 draw of their own. Now these teams, they'll switch spots, with Atlanta being back at home at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, where they are 9-3-3. And their 37 home goals that they've scored are tied for the second most with St. Louis, and only one behind Columbus's 38. Now, most of Montreal's 29 points have come at home, where they are 9-2-4. On the road, they're just 2-2-10, and they've been outscored 31-8. In fact, in their past 5 road MLS games, they've been shut out in 4 of 5, and they've only scored against Toronto 3-2 in that game. In July, Atlanta went into Stade Saputo, and they handed Montreal one of their few home losses. It's the only time in the last 8 meetings that a road team has won between these teams. Atlanta has also never lost to Montreal when playing at home. Now, I'm going to back Atlanta here to claim the double over Montreal. They just have too much offense for Montreal to go up against on the road, I believe. And it's not just Giacomakos and Almada. Saba, the new DP, has only played in 5 games, only started 2 games, and has 3 goals and 2 assists, and he scored on Wednesday. We'll start this off with an Atlanta home win over Montreal. Moving in to the next leg at Cincinnati and Charlotte. The teams drew 2-2 in Charlotte in July, and each team won 2-0 at home last year. In midweek play, both were involved in draws as well. Cincinnati 1-1 in Montreal, and Charlotte 2-2 at home to Philadelphia. Cincinnati are back home, where they are 12-1-1. Now, they did lose their first home game, though, in their last time playing at TQL Stadium, and they lost 1-0 to Orlando. That snapped a streak of 36 straight at home in all competitions where they had scored a goal. Charlotte are 12th, and they've allowed the 5th most goals in the league, but combined MLS and Leagues Cup, and they have just 1 loss in their past 10, but in their past 5 MLS games since the Leagues Cup tournament, they are 1-4-0, just 4 draws in a row. Both teams' score bets have been 4-1. Charlotte have actually drawn 9 of their past 11 games, and while they're not losing, they just can't be trusted to win games as they keep giving up late goals to turn wins into draws. But for Cincinnati, even though they are really good at home, they are now winless in 3 games with 2 draws and 1 loss. Let's just ask Cincinnati to score. Next will be the final leg, and it's Dallas and Columbus. Columbus raced out to a 3-0 first-half lead over Chicago on Wednesday, with Cucho Hernandez scoring a hat-trick, and they coasted to the finish line with that same 3-0 score. The Crew have just 3 road wins, though, this season, and only 3 in their past 21 going back into last season. They've conceded a goal in 20 of those 21. In their past 23 road games, bets on both teams to score are 20-3. There's been 2 or more goals in 20 of those 23 games. That record is especially poor against Western Conference teams, as they've not gone on the road to the West and won a game in any of their past 25 games, and they've not won in Dallas since 2013. Dallas don't win on the road much themselves, but they did so on Wednesday, winning 3-1 in Salt Lake, with Jesus Ferreira scoring a brace. Overall, they have just 2 losses in 8, and since Leagues Cup, they are 2-1. Both teams to score has hit in each of their last 4. In all competitions, Dallas has now scored in 11 straight, and I see them pushing that number to 12 on the weekend versus the Crew team that rarely keeps clean sheets. Let's go Dallas to score. So it's Dallas to score, Cincinnati to score, and Atlanta to win, coming in at plus 127 odds. Now here's our next bet, and it's a 2-team, both teams to score parlay, and it's starting with Philly and LAFC. It's an MLS Cup Final rematch between 2 teams still in the running to make it back to the finals this year, and both teams looking to keep home field advantage in the first round of the playoffs. LAFC has now gotten the best of Philadelphia in back-to-back cup competitions, having also knocked the Union out of the CCL semifinals over 2 legs this season, drawing 1-1 in Philadelphia and winning 3-0 in LA. On Wednesday, LAFC were involved in an unexpected scoreless draw with St. Louis, For as good as Philadelphia has been this year, they don't keep many clean sheets, at least not many of late. They've managed to do so only twice in their past 13 games, and in 3 of their past 19. Now, none of those have come in their past 5 since the League's Cup, and they've allowed 2 goals in back-to-back games now against Charlotte and Cincinnati, both games being draws. The Red Bulls scored 1, Toronto 3, and DC scoring once. They've all scored against Philadelphia in recent games, and none of those teams you would count as high-powered offenses that could compare to LAFC. Now, we can't bet against the Union, though, at Subaru Park. In all competitions, they have just 1 home loss in their past 42 games. We have one of those losses came against Miami in League's Cup, and only one of those has been in MLS. So those are just two home losses in those 42, with only one being in the league. This may be the time Philadelphia gets some revenge over LA, a team they have never beaten in 7 all-time attempts. So a Philadelphia straight win could be a pick if they're looking to get that revenge. However, they've not had much success against LAFC so far. LAFC, though, are unpredictable right now. They're just 2-1-3 of late. They have been shut out in 2 of their past 3 as well. This team just has too much talent, though, I think, to be kept off the score sheet in back-to-back games. Despite the 0-0 draw with St. Louis on Wednesday, they still created chances, and they did have an XG of 1.20. We'll go both teams to score with Philly and LAFC. And the next leg we'll tie it to will be RSL and Vancouver. Now, way back at the start of the season, RSL went into BC Place, and they won 2-1 on the road. Last year, the scores between these teams were 1-1 and 2-1 for Vancouver. That makes bets on both teams to score between these teams at 7-1 in the past 8 head-to-heads. Both teams scored over 2.5. It's also 6-2, and simply betting over 2.5 would be a perfect 8-0. But let's focus on this season. This season, Vancouver is the team with the highest rate of both teams to score bets cashing, with 71% of their 28 games so far doing so. Vancouver started their current 7-game road trip in great form at 3-1-0, but perhaps the travel caught up to them on Wednesday as they went into Houston and they lost 4-1, only getting that 1 goal very late. Or maybe Houston is just really good at home, or maybe it's both. Now, getting that goal, though, for Vancouver, even though it was late, does mean that they have now scored in 11 of 12 in all competitions. Otherwise, Vancouver has been one of the hottest teams in MLS right now at 5-1-2. RSL, meanwhile, have been sliding, and after losing 3-1 at home to Dallas on Wednesday, they have just 1 win in 7 games overall of late. In all competitions, they've allowed a goal in 8 of 9, and the one where they didn't, they were hosting Colorado, so one of the worst teams in the league. Now, if we just look at their 5 most recent games in MLS, they've lost 3-1, 2-1, 1-2-0, lost 2-1, and lost 3-0. So we see a lot of goals, and we see them conceding a lot of goals as well. The travel may be catching up with the Caps, but RSL are in poor form right now, and the Caps have 2 informed strikers with Brian White and Ryan Gold with 11 and 10 goals respectively. But Chicho Arango has also scored in 4 straight games for RSL. I think both teams get on the score sheet here, so we'll go RSL and Vancouver both to score, with Philly and LAFC both to score, coming in at plus 147. And I have one more 3-game parlay. Now, to start it off, looking at Portland and Colorado, I couldn't decide how to use Portland here as part of a Saturday parlay, Sunday parlay, a single bet on its own. I almost wanted to just bet Portland by themselves, but they are in the minus 160 or more range, which is just a little too much juice as one single bet, I think. So I'm just going to take the easy route here and ask them to score to boost up the parlay that I'm putting together on Sunday. It was 0-0 in Colorado back in July, and while that's the first 0-0 between these teams since 2016, it does extend a streak to 5 games in a row between them where both teams have not scored when they played. In those 5, it's an even 2 wins for Portland, 2 wins for Colorado, and 1 draw. Now, I do think Portland will score here, though. They're riding the new coach bounce all the way into the playoffs, it looks like, as they're now 8th after being 4-1-0 in their past 5. Portland have scored 2 goals in each of those past 5, and also in their past 6, but they also have conceded in 8 of 9 games overall. This should be a Portland win. Colorado were tied with TFC for the worst record in MLS. They are 2-3-9 on the road, and they've been outscored 29-9 on the road this year. They beat a dysfunctional New England 2 games ago at home 2-1, but then they went to Seattle. Lost to Seattle 2-1 on Wednesday. Colorado's 3 previous road games, they've all been shut out in each of those games. In all competitions, they've lost 8 straight away, and in those 8, they've been outscored 22-3. Portland, like I said, should win, but they certainly should at least get a goal playing right now. And that will start off what we will bet on Sunday. There's 2 games on Sunday. We'll include both of those into this final parlay. And the first game up is Orlando in Miami. This game is dubbed the Turnpike Derby. Now, Now, it does lose some of its luster here as Miami lost both Jordi Alba and Lionel Messi to injury in the first half Wednesday against Toronto, and they've already been declared out for this game on Sunday. That's bad news for Miami, but the good news is despite those injuries, Miami still drubbed TFC 4-0 with goals from Facundo Farias, Robert Taylor with 2, and Benjamin Cramashi with another one. Orlando went into Miami in May, and they left 3-1 winners. That was the pre-Messi and Friends era. When they met up again in the Leagues Cup in Miami, Miami won 3-1. However, Orlando has never lost at home to Miami, having 3 wins and 2 draws. Now, what happens in the third meeting this season when the venue switches back into Orlando? Well, Miami is still chasing an improbable playoff spot, being 5 points back now with 6 games to play and still 3 teams between them and the final playoff spot in 9th, owned by DC right now. They also have the U.S. Open Cup Final versus Houston coming up on Wednesday. So with Messi and Alba hurt already and a chance for more silverware on the line, just 3 days later, we could also see some more rotation from Tata Martino as he rests some more players here. It's tough to say. You can't count out this Miami team, though, that is 12-1-1 since Messi and all the new players joined. They scored in 13 of 14, and they scored multiple goals in 12 of 14. But we did just see them lose 5-2 to Atlanta last week. And truthfully, if TFC had better finishers on Wednesday, they certainly did have chances to score, and they could have got on the board before Miami put the game out of reach. This looks like a good spot to bet for an Orlando win. They did, though, lose on Wednesday in New York to New York City FC, which don't win very often. But they had been undefeated in 6 prior MLS games and also had just 2 losses in their past 18. Win or lose, though, the Lions, I do believe, should at least score. They scored multiple goals in 6 straight at home. They scored in 10 straight at home and also in 12 of 14 home games in MLS this season. So let's go Orlando to score. And finally, it's the last game of the round and on Sunday, and it's Austin and the LA Galaxy, 2 non-playoff teams right now, both with outside shots to still try to make it in. Austin went to New York on Wednesday, and they drew 1-1 with the Red Bulls. That makes both teams to score bets 9-1 in their past 10 in MLS for Austin. Now, it's good that they're scoring, but they aren't winning, being winless in their past 6. Throw in the Leagues Cup, and they're winless in 8. But again, both teams to score bets keep cashing with 11 of 12 and in 15 of 18 for all competitions for Austin. It doesn't look like either of these teams will make the playoffs. They do have an outside shot, like I said, but Austin is 12th, and LA Galaxy are 13th. Now, down 3-1 to Minnesota on Wednesday, the Galaxy looked like their season might be about over, but Reynoso left injured at halftime. Minnesota got a red card, and then we saw a hat trick from Billy Sharp to set the stage for a wild 4-3 comeback win. Sharp now has 6 goals in just 245 minutes in MLS, so he's looking like a good anytime scorer bet right now if you were looking at some props. Head-to-head, LA won 2-0 back-to-back in April in Carson, and they are 4-0-1 versus Austin all time. Wednesday's win, they should give LA some confidence here, but neither of these teams are capable of defending. LA have allowed the most goals in all of MLS with 48, while Austin's 46 are tied with Portland and Atlanta for the second most. This one actually could get wild with both teams needing the points and running out of time. A bet on both teams to score or both teams to score over 2.5 by itself is likely a good bet. In this parlay, I'll go both teams to score. So it'll be Austin and LA Galaxy, both teams to score, with Orlando to score and Portland to score, and that will come in just around even money at minus 108. Now that wraps up MLS Matchday 34 for Saturday and Sunday. You can see a recap of the picks in the next screen. Be sure to leave me your picks down in the comments. Give this video a like on your way out, and good luck with all of your picks this weekend.